But he was introduced by the new general manager of SmackDown. I kind of buried the lead here, but we have a new GM for SmackDown. That was the other noteworthy thing to come out of the show on Friday. Triple H had an announcement that he was there to make. And he was in the ring to make fun of Tony Khan in all of his tweets. Now, he was in the ring with Adam Pearce, and he told Pearce that he had a thankless job, mediating things on Raw and SmackDown every week, but he appreciated the job that he had done, and he was actually there to give him a promotion. Effective immediately, Adam Pearce is now the general manager of Monday Night Raw. He's basically been the de facto GM for both shows for the past 3 years. But now that they're officially calling him the GM, just for Raw, this just makes it official. And Triple H then introduced the new GM for SmackDown, Nick Aldis. Former NWA champion Nick Aldis, which means that we now have 2 NWA champions as the general managers of Raw and SmackDown, which is pretty cool. Now all we need is Shawn Michaels to make R-Truth the GM for NXT, and we'll complete the trifecta. They brought Aldis in for a trial run a while back. I don't know how many weeks it's been. Maybe it's been about a month or so, but he was brought in for what was called a trial run as a producer. So he's been at Raw and SmackDown, I think, now for several weeks. They did not want him in the ring, for whatever reason. Him being the general manager is going to get him on the program every week. It immediately puts him into a highly visible position on the show. Think of how many segments Adam Pearce gets FaceTime in every week. And, SmackDown for another year at least is on Fox. So he's the GM on SmackDown. He's going to get a lot of FaceTime now on this show. He'll be interacting with everybody from the top stars on down to the mid-card. And look, it's not a bad place for him to be. And they could always work an angle at some point that gets him to lace up the boots and get back in the ring. I don't think his in-ring days are over. He's not retired or anything like that. He'll be back in the ring at some point. But he carried himself very well on Friday in his first appearance. He didn't get a massive reaction or anything like that because a lot of people don't know who he is. He never worked before for WWE. So to a lot of the people in the building that night, Nick Aldis, that name doesn't mean anything to them. I don't know what the percentage would be, but to that audience, a lot of them did not know who he was. Which is why they didn't give him a big entrance with music or anything. He just sort of appeared at ringside when Triple H introduced him. It was something, though, I will say, to see him out there in the ring with Triple H when 5 years ago, he said that Triple H made a very ill-informed decision not to hire him, because there were people in his ear burying him to Triple H. And here we are 5 years later, and Triple H makes him the GM of SmackDown, I'm glad they've put that stuff behind them. And that he's finally getting the opportunity that I know he's wanted for a very long time. He's been waiting for this for so long. So now we are back to having general managers on both brands. It's been a while since we've had a Raw GM and a SmackDown GM. It needed to go away. It needed to die. The concept was so tired and played out. And it did go away. And now it's been long enough that it feels like the right time to bring it back. But if they are going to have separate GMs and try to create a real competition between the two brands, then they have to treat the brand split more like an actual brand split. Just having Raw people randomly show up on SmackDown and SmackDown people randomly showing up on Raw, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you have GMs having control over their rosters, right? And you have talent trades like we had this week. If Triple H has more creative freedom, I want to see him do better when it comes to this, because competition between Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce could be fun to watch, but only to the extent that it feels like they have real control over their rosters. And if they just keep doing the same stuff they've been doing, I just don't see the point.